I'm not a lawyer, but I have my mother, my brother, and my sister are all lawyers, so I'm familiar a little bit with lawyers. And I had the opportunity to interview a lawyer about how he uses Hookmark, and turns out he uses it with Daylite. So I'm going to use Daylite as an example. You don't have to be using Daylite, but just could I have a show of hands? How many people use Daylite? Yes, we do. 1001. So it looks like, okay, yeah, that's very popular amongst yeah, so if you don't use Daylite, that's okay. This is just an example. Just for those who do have who do use Daylite, I'm going to put in the chat a link to a Daylite and Hookmark episode that I recorded a while ago. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so I can demonstrate some things. And what I'm going to try to do is show ways in which Hookmark is pertinent to lawyers, and so I'll give kind of legal examples, legal folders, but it's basically the same app being used for, a particular set of people, and it's the same kinds of things that you do, whether you're a writer or a lawyer or whatever. So a beginning point would be, let's say that you got a client whose name is my name. So we're going to go to myself, Luc Beaudoin here, and you want to basically deal with this client. So this is an entry in Daylite. So that acts as a hub for a lot of information, could be elsewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Command Shift Space Bar Control H, copy a link to this entry here representing this client. And then in Finder, I'll have a folder here for all my clients, including this guy here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Hookmark again, and I'm going to do hook to copied link. So what that has done is it has bidirectionally linked this folder where I can keep information about billing, discovery, drafts, notes about this client in, so it's hooked it to the Daylite entry. So I'm going to double click on the Daylite entry, and you can see it brings me back here. Bring Hookmark up again on the Daylite side, and now I've got a link. I've got a link to the client. So it's common apparently for lawyers to share information in Dropbox. So this is one way that you can basically connect things up. Another way to do it, I guess I could demonstrate how you can initially set up your connection between one entry and another Daylite entry for a client, and let's say a folder elsewhere. Is you can use this. I did Command Shift H to get here, Control H, and then you can do hook to new dot dot dot, and that's going to create whatever you select. So I'm going to just create an empty folder here. And now you can see that this is another folder that's bidirectionally linked to the Daylite entry. We're not going to use that in today's demo, but I just wanted to illustrate, in a couple of ways, hook to new. It turns out that hook to new is the simplest entry point into learning about hooking concept. I realize that it's a little bit abstract. A lot of people struggle with it at first, but when you get the hang of it, it's super simple. Okay, so now I'm going to associate other information with this contact. So I'm going to go to my browser here and find this client's LinkedIn page. And I'm going to bring up Hookmark, and I'm going to copy a link to this web page. And I'm going to go back to the Daylite entry, and I'm going to bring up Hookmark again, and I'm going to hook to copied link, or Command V, right here. And what that has done, as you can see, is it's created a link back to the LinkedIn entry. So if one of your customers or somebody that you're doing discovery for has a web presence that you want to track, this is the way to do it. Now, I don't like the fact that LinkedIn puts these numbers here. They're basically spam. So I'm going to do Control Command R, also known as rename, and I'm going to rename this link. So you can't change the web page itself, but you can change how it is represented in Hookmark. Now, what I'd like to illustrate here is that whenever you hook something or copy a link in Hookmark, you're actually creating a bookmark behind the scenes, which you can expose by clicking on this Show Bookmark Window button or Command B. So here, I'll go in my recents and I'll see, yeah, sure enough, in my recent bookmarks, you see Luc Beaudoin and his LinkedIn page and the Dropbox folder. They're all there in recent, and you can search for them if you want to narrow down the scope. Really interested in Luc here, so let's narrow it down like that. So um, basically, you can hook all kinds of ancillary information to your hub. Basically, you choose whatever your hub is for your client, and you can hook stuff to it so that you can quickly get from one place to another. Now, I'm gonna illustrate here that you can copy. Let me get back to here. So in Daylite or any other app that's compatible with Hookmark, you can copy a link. Okay. So I'm going to copy a link to this Luc Beaudoin entry, and you can paste it anywhere in your Apple Notes or whatever, or even in Google Docs. So somewhere here, I have a shared document about Luc Beaudoin. So this is a Google Doc you might have for a particular client. So I'm going to paste that link in. And oh, notice that it didn't actually paste it as a link. That's because Google Docs and Notion and Discourse Forum, these web apps, they often don't support Apple's custom links. So they're in a kind of battle with Apple. But we can get around that. I'm going to go back to the Daylite entry for myself. I'm going to bring Hookmark up. So I'm going to copy as a universal link. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to the Google Doc for this person, and I'm going to paste that link. And now you can see it's a well-formed link. And it actually, what it is it's a custom link that has an HTTPS wrapper around it. So that's how, if you've ever had problems pasting DevonThink items or OmniFocus tasks or whatever into Google Docs and other web apps, this is, by the way, that's a way that you can get around this problem. Now, since I'm going back and forth between this Google Doc and the Daylite entry, I'm going to make life easier for me, and I'm going to copy a link to this, and then I'm going to go to Daylite, and I'm going to bring up Hookmark again, and I'm going to do again hook to copied link or Command V. Okay, and now there's the link set up, so I can quickly go back to that if we need to during this presentation. So you can repeat this kind of action for if you want to link to the person's social media profile, or like where they live in Twitter or X or wherever. You can do that, and you can link to local information. Like you might have a DevonThink folder. I didn't set that up in this presentation, but if I wanted to link to a DevonThink folder, which many lawyers use, I could easily do that. Okay, so I want to now go back to the Finder here and show you that Hookmark manages a few folders that for you. It uses a few folders for you, and they're configured in Hookmark's preferences, which are here. And there's a notes. Here we go. A notes folder, for instance. It's where your notes go by default. So I've created links to this. I've put them in the sidebar just for the demo purposes here. But whenever you create a note with Hookmark, those notes go into this the configured default folder. So what's a note? A note in Hookmark is basically any object or file that you create using the hook to new notes command. So I'm going to go back to this Daylite entry about myself, and I'm going to go and I'm going to create a new note using Command N. So if you see Command N here, it's going to create a new OmniOutliner document because I use OmniOutliner. You can change the default. I'll show you where, but here, this is a new OmniOutliner document. It's considered a note. Because I used hook to new, it's set up a bidirectional link, a hook back to the Daylite entry. Now, if you're curious about where does this file live, any file in an app that's compatible with Hookmark, you can bring up Hookmark and use this very handy reveal file in Finder command, Command R. So I find this very useful. I think it's worth the price of the app just for this feature. And then I command click here and it shows me, Finder will show me in what folder I am. And then I can go around and move that file to wherever I want it. A nice thing about Hookmark is you don't have to be very systematic about where you store your files because you can create links or hooks to files that live anywhere. But if you're working in a team, which many lawyers are, you probably want to be a bit systematic about it. So I'm going to go back to the Dropbox entry. So let's say that you are reading a document, such as this one, make it it's a discovery document, and you find some useful material, some useful testimony, say from the user, which is right here. You can actually bring up Hookmark and copy a link, and what you're going to get is a deep link to the specific location of this file. So I'm going to scroll up and go into the to a note here, blah, and I'm going to put in this link here is a deep link, but if you click on this link, you notice that it not only opened the PDF, but it scrolled back to the location that you had highlighted. So Hookmark, when you select text in the PDF in many apps, not all apps, they're listed on our website, or you can ask. When you select text and use copy link or copy as markdown link or copy as universal link, you get a link that goes right back to the location in the PDF that you'd selected. So if you've got, 500 pages of discovery and you want to prepare some trial notes, these deep links are going to save your day. You won't have to use copy and paste. You can just put in deep links and Hookmark's going to help you out there. Okay, so that was copying deep links. Now we're going to deal with projects. So typically with a firm, you're going to have projects that revolve around a customer. So I'm going to show you in Daylite. Daylite has a notion of projects somewhere here, my projects. So I've already previously set up a project for Luc Beaudoin. So if you use projects, you might want to link this or hook this to the person. So you can bring up Hookmark on the destination, and then I'll just do Command V there, and you see that I've linked this. Now, Daylite has an internal linking mechanism, so you might not use that. But let's say that you use OmniFocus because Daylite's, for whatever reason, but here Daylite doesn't have a very powerful project management system. So we're going to bring up Hookmark on this Luc Beaudoin project here. Could be on anything. And we're going to do hook to new ... because I don't want just the default app to show up. I want to choose OmniFocus. So here goes OmniFocus. Okay, here's a project, and you can go in and you can create subtasks as you normally would. Because I'm using screen sharing, I can't easily tab in. Basically, what you're doing here is you're creating a path between your OmniFocus project and the Daylite, the project in Daylite. Now, if you wanted to, of course, you can hook this to the folder representation of this person. So here I'm going to navigate. Actually, I'm going to use the navigation keys. You can use the arrow keys to navigate. So see this little button here on the right? It does what the arrow key does is it links, it basically will load up or focus on this. It's like if you use OmniFocus, you're used to the concept of focusing. Notice that the title bar now represents the project. So I'm navigating the links here. So now that's the project, remember, is connected to the person in Daylite, the client. So I'm going to go there. Actually, I'm going to go back now because I forgot to show you that this here has 6 links. Where did my number go? That should be, it's disappeared. So it should be there. So you get a link count here on the right. So I'm back here now. If I want to hook what I selected to the client folder on the Finder or in DevonThink, wherever, well, I just link it back. So now Luc in the Finder is hooked to the Luc Beaudoin project. Now, the thing about these hooks is that they're not shared yet. We intend in the future to provide a mechanism by which people can share hooks. But for now, your hooks are private and only private. So, but what you can do is you can use Hookmark files. So when I'm creating any folder basically on the Finder, I'll create, or Hookmark will create a Hookmark files folder. Okay. And I'm going to default, I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to bring up Hookmark on the OmniFocus side again. And now I'm going to create a Hookmark file. So make Hookmark file. It's down here, Command Shift H, and it put it in a default location. I'm going to move it here. And what is a Hookmark file? Well, a Hookmark file is actually a file that contains a link or a markdown link that points to whatever Hookmark can handle. So I'm going to double click on this and you see it brings me back here. This isn't a great example for sharing because OmniFocus projects aren't shared either. So we'll make this more interesting. So I'm going to go back to Luc by using Hookmark and navigate back to the Luc entry, bring up Hookmark on the Luc client entry, and then Command Shift H to create a Hookmark file. So this is Luc Beaudoin. I might give it a name and say in Daylite. Okay, and then I can put this in this shared folder. Remember, it's a Dropbox folder, so people in the company have this shared. So that's what you would do if you want to create a link back for everybody who has access to the link target to be able to share and see. So I love these Hookmark files. Let me show you what they are. Basically, just a vaunt Hookmark. We've tried to cover and are still continuing to cover all the edge cases of using links. We want to be your navigation and linking hypertext tool. So somewhere here there's BB Edit. Here it is. So I'm going to grab this Hookmark file and open it in BB Edit. See, it's just a link. You can actually, we love the plain text philosophy of Markdown. And from day one, we've had that too. You can actually edit this link if you want by hand. You can put a Markdown link in here. You can put a web address. You can put any URL that you want. Hookmark is going to read it when you double click on the file. So it's much more powerful than an alias or a weblog file. Okay, so now I want to show you a trick about how to hook stuff together. You typically use Hookmark's context window, the copy link command, copy link or copy as universal link, whatever, or copy markdown link, and then hook to copied link. But if you wanted to, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. So if I wanted to, for whatever reason, connect this motion to this PDF file, I'm going to drag and drop the files onto the menu bar icon. And lo and behold, it tells you these two items are hooked, bidirectionally linked to each other. So if I bring up Hookmark on one file, I see it's connected to the other. We're going to do it a different way. We're going to come up here and I'm going to bring up Hookmark on one side of the link. And here you can see that it's hooked to the other side. I'm just demonstrating that the hooking actually happens. So that's one way you can do it. But remember, we want to support multiple ways of doing things. So if you want to hook multiple things together, you can grab 3 files. It could be different folders, doesn't matter. And you drop them all here and Hook will automatically mesh link them. Everything will be linked to everything else. Or you can grab a couple of files here and you can use the services. Control click, go to services, and there you can copy all those links. You might want links to the 3 files, and you can hook the selected files together. You can do whatever you want. So we're going to hook the selected files together. Okay, we're blasting through a whole bunch of ways of connecting information on your Mac. I'm going to open it up now. We're actually going through quite a bit of what I wanted to cover. It's a lot of material. So let's bring up Hookmark here and look at the different commands and see if there's anything else we want to talk about. We talked about hook to new. So I told you that this hook to new command here uses the default app to create the files in. So here's where you can change that. I'm going to do command virgule in French, comma in English here. And then remember I said that these things are called notes. So my default quote unquote note-taking app is OmniOutliner, but you can use basically any compatible app, and it could be a text file. So if you're into BB Edit, you can just, might want to create a text file as your default command N. So if it's a text file, then you can have a default template in. Now it can also be a folder. So I wanted to show you this really cool thing. Let me go back to Daylite. I use this next feature a lot. Well, I use all of these features a lot. I'm going to bring up Hookmark on this contact. Now, let's say that you create a folder in Dropbox for this guy. So forget that we've already done this. Okay. One way you can do it is you can use hook to new folder. You select one of these folders. I'm going to select the contact info in OmniOutliner. Okay, this is going to create an entire folder of stuff. So I'm going to double click on that. And it's created this entire folder, and it's added one to it because Luc Beaudoin already existed. So I've created all of these files for this folder. Agenda, and notice how it's named it. It's pretty smart. Objective, agenda for meetings with Luc, contact info for Luc, minutes of meetings with Luc, notes of meetings. Whenever you deal with anybody more than once, personally, that's the way I do it. If I'm going to be having calls with a particular person, I create these files here. So as a matter of fact, there's missing a file in this particular template. There should be another one called next, because I keep my notes for the next meeting. If I've got it, it's like the OmniFocus next concept. If you get an idea about something you want to talk to your client about, you can put it in this next thing. So I'm going to bring up Hookmark just to show you. This guy's not connected yet because I just created him. But this guy is hooked back to the source. All of these things are hooked back to the source. So I can go into Daylite, bring up Hookmark here, and lo and behold, well, we called it Luc Beaudoin 1, because this is just a demo. I've got a number of these things going on. So if I double click on that, no surprise, you're hooked back. We've created Hookmark files for you. Now there's two Hookmark files. We can change the naming a little bit later, but one's a Hookmark file to the source. The other one is a Hookmark file to the destination. So I can't tell which is which here, so I'm going to drop it into BB Edit and see that this is a link to the entire folder that I've just created. There's reasons for doing that. I could explain in question period, but this is a link back to the source, and boom, I'm back. So if I was a lawyer, I would configure these templates. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, because you probably want your discovery and your notes and your drafts and whatever trial documents. You're probably doing the same thing over and over again for each client. So with Hookmark, you can make that systematic. So here's my template app, and here's my template folder. So I'm going to open a templates folder, and you see two subfolders in there. One is for all the built-in templates that we've created for you. Okay, but we can't read your mind. We don't know what you really want. But you'll notice that the contact, I use this secondary one, contact info, and what's it called? And meetings is here. So you can change the default for this. Here, I'm going to open this. For every person, I have a file personally. So I've basically just shared with you what I do. And I don't fill out all this information, but I might fill out some of it. And you, as a lawyer, will probably have some contact info. So you can basically put it in here in your template, and you can keep information about the contact and so on and so forth. But if you wanted to customize it, you'd work in this custom templates folder. So I'm going to open this. Okay, so I've duplicated this contact info thing, and I'm going to open it, and I'm going to give myself a next file because I think that's handy. And I'm going to open that, and I'm going to delete all this stuff. So I'm going to have a blank file here for the next things that I want to talk to this client about when I meet them next time. So I can go back to I'm just using Daylite here as an example. I can go back to some place that I want to create that I want hooked to the new contact, and then I go to Finder because we're creating Finder elements. And look at this. I've got this thing called contact info and meetings with a star. So it's giving you a star, but if say you want to see what's there, you can use the common keyboard trick as Command Return, and that reveals the file in Finder. So you can see where your custom template is, and you can see the content of the custom template, and you can change it. So now you've got two copies, the built-in template and the custom template. I've got a question that's beyond my pay grade from Peter Wazico. Does Hookmark support the interplanetary file system IPF? That's beyond my pay grade. Biling, do you have an answer to that? We can answer this in. I'm making a note of it in my local files in OmniOutliner. So I'll answer that, and somewhere I'll go to the forum and put an entry for whatever questions come up that I can't answer. So I don't think B-Link's got something there. Oh, somebody else had something. Sorry, I missed a whole bunch of things here because I'm not a Zoom pro. All these questions came up. One person asked, Peter asked, do the deep links to selections work with web pages? No, you'd have to use an anchor. If the anchor was already present when you copied the link, then you'd get that anchor. But you're reliant on, because there's no web standard for this yet, you're reliant on the website developer to have put anchors, HTML anchors there. But if there's an HTML anchor and it's in your address bar, Hookmark's going to pick it up. So, question from Doug, is there a simple way to start over, i.e. delete existing links? Sure. If you want to start over, you can go to library. Oh, Apple. I'm going to have to use the terminal because Apple hides the library folder. CD library open dot, and then I'm going to application support. Then I'm going to go to com.cogsciapps.hook. Hook was a previous name. I'm going to open this. So if you want to start over, then you can delete this entire folder and we'll recreate it for you. That's a simple way. By the way, we create backups while I'm in here. So if you want to revert, these are all backups. If it's a bit of a sledgehammer to start all over. You're usually better off using backups. Okay, that was Doug's question. Now, Elliot is asking, how robust is the scripting for get path, get name, get URL? What is possible in terms of retrieving the file path hookmark link? Well, there's a lot of text here. I'm just reading it. Peter asked again, if I save a web page as PDF and deep link to that, would it get around a page authors not having provided? Oh, yes. Well, for PDF, you're not reliant on the author at all. I can show you what the link looks like. So let's do this. I'm using Skim. If you haven't tried Skim, I highly recommend it. So I'm going to bring up Hookmark. I'm going to copy as markdown link. Yes. And I'm going to go to BB Edit just so we can see what's happening here. Open a new file. I could have done hook to new file. That would have been cool. So now I just want to show you this long URL. It contains parameters which you can read. We describe the parameters on the website, but the key information here is, I'm going to new line this, the page number. We keep the PDF page number, the X coordinate, which is 0, and the Y coordinate, which is 0. And I can't remember what these other things do, but we've created an interchangeable format so that in different apps, you can use the same indexing. So if you switch from Skim to Adobe Acrobat or Nitro PDF or DevonThink, well, DevonThink is a bit trickier because it's got its own URL scheme. You can switch between PDF apps and the links will still work. Same thing for email. I'll just bring up our email. I haven't demonstrated links to emails, but you can copy a link to an email. We support these 3 apps. We also support Spark email, but not in the same way. Anyway, so this you can select the app in which you want Hookmark's mail links to open. Oh, we also support MimeStream. We support a bunch of other mail apps that, for some reason that I could explain, we don't put here. So I'm just stating the analogy that you can change the app in which you open PDFs and your deep links will still work. And you can change the apps in which your mail links open and it can still work. I think I'll demonstrate mail in just a second because it's really very useful for lawyers and everybody. Okay, let's look at email since we're talking about email. So I've made a test to myself here. So I'm gonna create a link using Command C, copy link, okay, to this email. And I'm gonna show you that if, say, I'll select a different email. Normally I have thousands of emails. This is a demo account. Go back to Daylite, put it in a Daylite note, so a new note, and then I'm going to paste this link in. So this is a link, as you guessed it, will open your email. Bang, it's open the email. This email link can be shared basically. So I, pasted it in Daylite. I'm using Daylite, assuming that we're a team using Daylite. So my secretary might need this email. So I might tell my secretary here to print out subset of these pages from from this email. And my secretary would be able to click on this link too and see it's showing up here where that points to and open that mail. And she might be using a different app. It doesn't matter. As long as the two people have access to the destination email, they can both use the links. So this is a feature I encourage people to use. Copy links to emails and you can send them to your client. For instance, I mean, this is super handy. Let's suppose that your client said something in an email message 2 months ago. You know that you might have 30, 50 emails with that client. You want to refer back, you want to get clarity on a particular email. Without Hookmark, it's almost impossible. You have to find the message and you have to re-paste the message. It's not the original message. With Hookmark, you just copy a link to the email and you put it in your email and you say, here, about this email, link. What did you mean when you said foo barbaz? Now you might say, well, they'll have to buy a license for Hookmark. I can't assume they'll do that. Well, if you first of all, you need to know that they're Mac users. So if they're not Mac users, this is not going to work. But they don't need a license to Hookmark. We've made opening of any link to be free. We don't even charge to create mail links. Mail and web links, you can use Hookmark for free to create those links. Just ask your client to load up this app if you're going to be doing a lot of back and forth with them, and they can open web links that you share with them, of course, and they can open mail links that you share with them. So anyway, even if you don't use it with your clients, using it in the firm is really handy. Okay, I've got Austin Elliott asking something. Elliott would like to copy links to several things and have a nice formatted list. So let's go to the client folder. This is
Hey, Luke, I realize that that can be done for all the hook links, but I was asking if it could also grab if it's in Dropbox, if you're in Finder in the Dropbox folder, it would grab the corresponding Dropbox URL. So you'd have what you would paste would be something nicely formatted that would have the hook link either in Markdown or rich text, and then a space or bulleted or however, and then the Dropbox URL so that when you paste this, and maybe look at this in like a file on another iOS app, or for instance the Daylite iOS
yeah.
app, you could click on the URL because it's not going to go to the hook link's not going to work if you're remote or if you're using another app, but the Dropbox URL is going to take you where you need to go.
Yeah, you're right. And I've written that down and I take it as a feature request.
Okay.
That would be an integration. We can technically do that if Dropbox has a URL scheme for that. And I don't know what the particular user interaction would be to get to what you want, but I've made a note that that's a feature
Okay.
request. We don't support it right now.
Right. I
But
was just really kind of trying to conceptualize it and even see if it was technically possible.
Well, it depends on the API that the Dropbox provides. I can't tell you offhand.
Mhm.
We actually looked into this early on, but we said, we've got such a big mountain to climb that we're not going to do this particular advanced thing to begin with. But it would sure solve a problem for mobile devices. Currently,
Sure.
Hookmark file links don't work on mobile devices, but we plan to do it this year. We had it in a prototype in Hookmark PAL years ago, actually. We just didn't like the interaction, but we noticed that OmniFocus has, or the Omni Group has gone ahead and made certain links which are just work for their apps for
Gotcha.
links.
I've been able to get something kind of like this to work, although very brittle, using the Shortcuts app. It's just I kind of butt up against my scripting knowledge,
Yeah.
and then um, getting the right stuff out of the URL. But I thought it might be possible with someone who really knew what they were doing.
Well, what I can say is that if you can copy that link, I'll show you something that so you get the idea of how you would do this. And yes, you can do it today. So let's imagine that. What are we going to do here? So you copy a link to anything, really. So I'm going to copy a link to this shared document in Google Docs. Okay. And then I'm going to go into Daylite. I don't want to confuse things. I'll go into email. So I'm going to bring up Hookmark. Notice that Hookmark is focused on, of course, it's focused on the email that I've selected when I invoke the Hookmark context window. But there's a command here, Control Command L. Here's focus on link in clipboard. So I just use Control Command L. So so I can do that and it'll focus on that URL. So from there, you can rename it if you wanted to, because the Dropbox URL name, the link name might not be useful. So you Command Control R to rename and say, this is my new name. This. Okay, so I've renamed the link. So you can focus on copied link. You copy that link through the whatever service is provided on the Finder. So copy that Dropbox link, and then you'd focus on copied link using the gear menu. Focus on link in clipboard, and then you do whatever you want. It's as if you had invoked Hookmark on that thing. I want to talk about clean my links just because it's a new feature. This applies to everybody. It's not specific to lawyers. I'll go into Safari and I look up a book here called Redirect and go to Amazon. Now let's see, is Amazon giving me a clean? Amazon gave me this very dirty link that's got tracking information in it, right? Well, I'm using Hookmark 7. So when I do copy link, I'm going to do copy as markdown link here because I want to show you what the link looks like and go into BB Edit just to paste the link so you can look at it. So this link here is a lot shorter. It doesn't contain all that. It's got this here, which we should probably get rid of, but we've gotten rid of all that. It's called URL cruft. Um, so again, if you look at that link, look at all this stuff. If I was to paste this link, this Amazon link, look at how long it is. I don't know why this isn't wrapping. Um, It's not wrapping. There's something going on with BB Edit, but I can show you that this goes on forever. Look at that ugly link. Well, just use copy as link and you get more privacy. So if you're a lawyer, you're concerned with privacy and you're a Mac user, you don't like cruft. So use copy link hook, use enable this feature, which is right here in the preferences. It'll be enabled by default called clean my links and Bob's your uncle. So I'm going to show you the help page on that. So you can look at this web page and or just Google clean my links Hookmark and you'll see what this is all about. So yeah, we're really, really excited about this new feature. Somebody asked me about Keyboard Maestro. I'm I've owned Keyboard Maestro for as long as I can remember, and I've never used it. So I'm not the right person to ask. But it's one of my resolutions this year to do more automation. So I will do automation. I'm using Hazel, for instance, now more productively than I used to. The question, if I have hooks to two web pages and one contains a link to the other, will Hookmark detect that implicit link between them? Not yet. I can tell you that we're building up the related items feature. So if I bring Hookmark up here, there's a related section, an indirectly hooked section. So related is basically we've got a recommendation system. I won't get into the details about how it works, but it's an area of interest for us to improve how the related items work. So you can basically just shoot us your rules about what kind of rules you think you'd like, because the sky's the limit. And we're going to be implementing. We've already been fine tuning this, and we'll just keep fine tuning this so that if you're in a PDF, for instance, an academic PDF, it probably has a DOI, digital object identifier. So if you bring up Hookmark in a PDF in the future, Hookmark's going to appear into that file, and it's going to look for the DOI, and it's going to present that in the related item section. That's just an example. There's lots, if you let your imagination run, there's lots of additional features we can do for that. We've got all the infrastructure with the Hookmark context window, so this is a natural extension to that. Somebody's saying it's a great way to stream deck. Yeah. Actually, I just bought a Steam Deck. Okay. Well, we've been at it quite a bit, so I'm going to just ask if there's more questions. I could certainly go on. Will you update the Hookmark app and set? Yes, always. We at times it's taken us a day or more, but our goal is basically within the hour when we release on for paddle, we release for setup as well. But this is Hookmark 7 beta. We're not doing the betas on setup, I guess is what the question must be. So we're not, I guess we could do that. We could do the beta. Let me take an action for that. We just haven't done betas for setup yet. So I'm going to look at this control. Oh, I'm running Hookmark in foreground mode. So that's the default now. You can turn that off. If you don't like foreground mode, go into advanced if you're a pro user and just unclick show dock icon. It's the same idea if you use launch bar and probably the others. But now Hookmark is a foreground app. It obviously has a background window, but it runs in the foreground. So it now has its own menu. So you can do all this stuff. I invite you to have a look and look at all the stuff that you can now do. We basically want this to be whatever's in a gear menu should be here. Okay, I've got 1 more minute. So I'm going to talk about automatically check for updates. In case you didn't know, if you click that, for me it's off because it's a Debo machine, but everybody should have this on. You'll automatically get script updates, which Biling, who is here, frequently does, like a couple of times a week at least. I think she's doing an update to the scripts. So Hookmark will fetch those and install those transparently without you needing to reboot Hookmark. So if I look at the scripts tab here, I can tell you we've done over 400 revisions to these scripts since we launched. And yeah, they go on a script server and Hookmark picks them up automatically. So I recommend you keep that checked. I think it's on by default. And if not, you just use the check now. Oh, bookends. Yes, let me just get you a link to that. Yeah, see, I was able to pick it up really fast using the bookmark window. So I'm going to copy the link and then in Safari, if I can get that, I'm going to paste it here. You just Google it, Hookmark and bookends. You guys can email us questions. We love activity on the forum as well. Okay, you're all welcome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed presenting to you all and look forward to catching up on the forum or through email. Cheers now.